Gordy Bunch.
Too much background noise here. Way too much background noise. Come on. Hang on. What am I? Okay, first of all, your name.
I am Gordy Bunch.
Tell me a little bit, Gordy, how you involved in this project, where you started and where you're at now.
Sure. First started in this project actually began several years ago when Precinct 3 Commissioner James Nowak came to the Woodlands Township and commissioned a South County mobility study. And that really got us involved in a future bond proceed. And the entire proposal was based on including other local governments, TxDOT and HGAC, in which case we would have a comprehensive short-term and long-term plans list identified and agreed to, so the next time we had a bond, we would have projects that could pass. So that began 2 years ago. It cost $500,000 and took 2 years to develop. That plan was completed in the fall of 2014, and as we entered into the now bond that's stated for May 9th, a bond committee was formed. I was asked by the Woodlands Township to be the appointee for the township to serve on that committee. And so I was at the committee meetings. First meeting we had in December of 2014. There was maps of the precincts, and there were already identified project lists there for us to review. In that first meeting, I adamantly opposed the now famous Woodlands Parkway Extension. This extension, I believed, as early as December, would cause our community to vote against the bond. And I thought the stated objective of our bond was to hit up the most critical needs within our county, countywide, the ones that could have the most immediate impact to our traffic woes, because we are decades behind, mostly because of poor planning and poor execution. As the committee meetings went on, I continued my opposition to that project. It's curious to me why one project was so important that it couldn't be culled from the starting list of 100. And there was no opposition to any of the other projects that were eventually culled. What I have behind me here is a map. That map identifies the short-term needs of South Montgomery County in detail. These projects in red are widening of roads. The purple circles or the pink circles are intersection improvements, and the blue circles are overpasses. Throughout South Montgomery County, and this study does include all of Precinct 3, part of Precinct 2, and part of Precinct 4. Every single one of these projects are in a position to move forward, and these were identified within this region as the most critical ones of need. What's happening with our current bond proposal is many of these projects identified as needing to be done in the next 5 years have been excluded from the project list in favor of projects that don't show up on anybody's plans as being needed for up to 6 to 25 additional years. When we look at the back end of Woodlands Parkway and 2978, you do see an intersection improvement is needed today. It's needed today because that intersection is already at near failure. When you look at the intersection of Kirkendall and Woodlands Parkway, that intersection is already at a failure. After my opposition in December to the expansion of Woodlands Parkway, then 2 studies were commissioned. One study by Commissioner Riley to study the impact of the road he had already put on a project list, which means that he had it on his project list with no forethought or concern to the impact it would cause to the other side of the road. And then Precinct 3 Commissioner James Nowak commissioned a study to the impact of an extension to the road that would be within his precinct. Both studies indicated a substantial increase in car count coming through Woodlands Parkway between 2978 and Kirkendall. More importantly, that additional traffic fails our road from a level of service C to a level of service F between Branch Crossing and Kirkendall. In order to mitigate the impact of the additional traffic, you would have to widen Woodlands Parkway between Kirkendall and 2978. Today, as it stands, there is absolutely no right-of-way available to add a third lane on either side, meaning the extension of Woodlands Parkway does not improve mobility, it actually wrecks it for a segment of the roads. If you look at the map, there is no proposed extension in the next 5 years. I'm going to change maps. This map is in the study, and this map shows what is needed between 6 and 25 years from now. This was an additional $1.16 billion of projects identified, and only then do you see the Woodlands Parkway as being extended. And if you look to the right of the table, it's not planned, it's still as proposed. When we had the impact studies done, it showed that the eastern corridor that everybody agrees is needed could be accomplished through expanding 1488 or expanding Hardin Store Road. Two roads already in existence and already servicing the folks that are living on the west side of the county. This expansion through undeveloped property isn't about mobility. It's about connecting newly developed land to existing corridors. If our goal as a county is to pass a bond that addresses our highest needs, it should address our current highest need roads that service the people who already live here, not the ones who have yet to come for the houses that are yet to be built. And that's why I opposed this bond. It's a misappropriation of priorities, and it actually fails a road within my township of the people I represent. And they, as the Woodlands On Live poll showed, 65% of our constituents are opposed to this extension. And we've already had 4,655 people sign a petition put together to ask them to take the Woodlands Parkway off the project list. It's inconceivable to me why, when we are this far behind, you would jeopardize countywide bond over one project. All they had to do was remove this, and we could have kept Montgomery County moving.
What do you think the main reason they don't want to remove this? Why are they so set that do not want to remove this? I mean, if it's going to cause them to fail throughout the county, why are they so set on one road to do this?
After I made my opposition to the road extension, I had to go do a little research because it didn't make sense to me why you would jeopardize mobility for one road. In looking into that, you find 3 developer-owned tracts of land between 2978 and 249. If you go further into it, you'll see the people who are supporting various political action committees as the owners of that land. So this looks to me like crony capitalism, that we're building this road to enrich billion-dollar developers on the west side of Woodtrace, local developers of the Lakes at Mill Creek, which are former Woodlands Development Company executives and local real estate agents. The road doesn't connect. They keep pointing to a 30-year plan. They only started buying right-of-way in the last 5 years. So what 30-year plan owns no right-of-way? What 30-year plan doesn't buy right-of-way from the beginning point to the end point of the planned public road? They have not done that. They are now coming back and saying, don't worry about it, the developer's going to pay for their part. Well, if the developers develop their roads, it will connect from 249 to Dobbin-Hubsmith. It will never make its way all the way to Woodlands Parkway. Why is the county enriching those projects by trying to connect those projects before they're even built?
Okay, now you were with you resigned. What was the reason behind your, tell me about the resignation?
I resigned from the Keep Montgomery County Moving Political Action Committee. When I was initially asked to serve on a citizens committee, it was not described to me as a political action committee, one that would be automatically obligated to promote the bond issuance. I was appointed by my township board. If they had described my service as you're going to be on a political action committee, I'm not sure you can appoint an elected public official to a political action committee and then obligate that person to serve to promote a bond issue. I had no choice when they refused to remove the extension of Woodlands Parkway to resign, and I resigned directly to James Nowak, who was the precinct commissioner who had requested that we have a representative from the township.
Tell me about, okay, what we're talking about, how long will this whole thing started? I mean, we're looking at these reports coming out in January, February, when the bond issue, about the same time the bond issue.
Yeah, essentially what happened is after I opposed the road in our first committee meeting in December, Commissioner Riley and Commissioner Nowak separately commissioned studies to show, well, what would the impact of this road be? So what that ought to tell people that are interested in this is they actually plan to expand roads without knowing the impact. And the only reason that a study was commissioned after the fact is because I drew attention to the fact that I believed our residents did not want that road expanded or extended. So we got the first report back in early February. Actually, February 4th is the date it was completed. It was emailed to township directors that week. It did not come from the Keep Montgomery County Moving Pack. It came from Precinct 3. And in reading that, I noticed a lot of interesting things. One, the projected car count increase in 2018 to that segment of Woodlands Parkway between 2978 and Kirkendall was 6,000 additional cars. Now, I drive that area because I have kids that go to school over at Colson Tough. There isn't room for 6,000 more cars in that segment. In the study, it also shows in 2025 that increased car count with the road being extended is now over 10,000 cars more. And in here, there's what's called level of service. Level of service describes acceptable road usage. And during peak times, we take our level of service from a level C, which is acceptable, about a 30-second wait at a stoplight, to a level F in more segments of the Woodlands Parkway than are already at an F. And if we're already at an F, how does 6,000 more cars coming onto a parkway spell mobility? It creates gridlock. What I don't understand is we have lawyers, prior politicians, people really not qualified, appointed to a committee to bless a project list. I myself am not qualified to bless a project list. These projects were pre-identified and handed to us, and they might have been culled down from a list of 100 to 77, but nobody on that committee is qualified to validate the need of any of these projects. Sure, we can all look at Rayford Road and agree that that needs to be done, but I can actually look at a study that validates that that needs to be done. It's the South County Mobility Plan. But when you get into projects outside of the South County Mobility Plan, we can't point to any documentation, any studies, any engineering, any environmental, that those plans are feasible today. We can all agree 1774 and 1488 is probably the worst intersection in the county. It probably needs more than $5 million to attract the necessary dollars to get tech stock to really fix that. We do need a road bond, but we need a road bond that hits the highest impact needs today and not servicing projects that really can be put off for several more years or even decades.